From the rusted gates of a factory town to the neon lights where the sun goes down, from the rows of corn to the city street, you can feel the rhythm of a million feet. Where the hands that build, where the hearts that pray, we're the ones that show up at the break of day. They try to tell us that the thread is torn, that the promise died before we were born. But look in my eyes and you'll see the fire. We're taking this country higher and higher. We are America. One voice rising like a thunder roll. We are America. Heart of a lion, good soul.
Round two, let's
From
go.
the purple mountains to the deep blue sea, this land was meant for you and me. Ooh, we are America. We don't need the chain or the puppet strings. We just need the truth that the morning brings. Common sense in the words we speak, protecting the bold and the tired and weak. It's a simple creed, it's a heavy load, but we're the ones walking on the honest road. It ain't about the left, it ain't about the right, it's about the stars in the middle of the night. It's the red, the white, and the deep, deep blue. It's the spirit living inside of you.
Watch out.
We are America. One voice rising like a thunder roll.
Freedom.
We are America. Heart of a lion and a worker's soul. From the purple mountains to the deep blue sea, this land was meant for you and me. Oh, America. We are America. We are America. Yeah, we're still here.
Yeah, I got a couple more. This is kind of interesting one.
Coming to the Now she faced the Senate with questions on the line. Americans wanted answers after all this time. Even with Biden sweeping on open pardon in hand, he took the fifth before the people of this land. Josh Hawley asked Doctor, what day is today? Fauci took the fifth, he had nothing to say. What color is your tie? What color is the floor? He took the gab again, and then he took it more. The fifth is his right, it doesn't prove a crime, but people still deserve the truth after all this time. When you demanded trust from every American side, we have the right to question why you will not testify. Let every state investigate, let every state decide. If the evidence meets the law, let every state indict. Start in the free state of Florida, open the door wide. Come on, James Meyer, let the truth be our guide. From Tallahassee down through the Everglades, Florida stands strong, don't let the questions fade. Thank you, Senator Rand Paul, for demanding the truth, for asking the questions Americans ask too. No special treatment and nowhere to hide. Follow the evidence from state to state nationwide. All 50 states, let the truth come out. All 50 states, that's what justice is about. Let every state investigate, let every state decide. If the evidence meets the law, let every state indict. Start in the free state of Florida, let justice come alive. Come on, James, who's lawyer, Florida, take the lead tonight. 50 states, one demand, truth and justice across this land.
Okay, one more. Last one. Three and a half.
Dedicated to every American by Joe Mesters and family. 250 years of freedom, a flag still waving in the sky. Built by hands that love this country, by the brave who dared to try. From farms to city skylines, from the mountains to the sea. This land was born from sacrifice. This land was born to be free. But there are voices growing louder, trying to tear our nation down, forgetting all the lessons learned where freedom was not found. Stand up, stand strong, keep America free, for the red, white, and blue and our liberty. Socialism failed in the East, it won't work here. We'll defend our Constitution. We'll never live in fear. God bless President Trump. God bless this land. God bless the military and veterans who kept freedom stand. God bless America. Together we stand. USA, USA, USA. They promise dreams with empty words, but control is what they bring. They want to change the heart of freedom and silence those who sing. But we remember those before us who fought and gave their all. We will not let this nation stumble. We will dance of freedom's call. This is the land of faith and courage, where the eagle still flies high. We won't trade away our freedom. We won't let America die. Stand up, stand strong, keep America free. For the red, white, and blue and our liberty. Socialism failed in the East, it won't work here. We'll defend our Constitution. We'll never live in fear. God bless President Trump. God bless this land. God bless the military and veterans who kept freedom stand. God bless America. Together we stand. USA, USA, USA. Raise the flag, let it fly. For every soldier who had to say goodbye. For every veteran brave and true who stood for me and fought for you. For every family, every prayer. For every patriot standing there. This is our home, this is our fight. Keep the flame of freedom bright. Stand up, stand strong. Keep America free. For our children, our future, and our liberty. 250 years, let the whole world hear. America still stands and freedom lives here. God bless President Trump. God bless this land. God bless the military and veterans who make freedom stand. God bless America. Together we stand. USA, USA, USA. God bless America. Strong and free. Forever the land, liberty. USA, USA, USA.
Okay.
Did you know that you
God bless America. God bless our troops. First lady and our best president ever passed. Soldiers passing in the future and all that stuff. When will this movie end? When will this movie end, you guys? They say it's a movie. And they said everything has to happen twice. Remember that, Paul? They said everything has to happen twice. I wonder what happened to that sequence. So we got I'm lucky I did the first show, Paul, because I got more stuff. Billy Bean's out 25 minutes. And then I gotta cover that Dearborn videos again. There's 6 clips on one section. They're short, 5 minutes, 2 minutes and stuff. That's only an hour from me. So Michigan's finally getting the news now. Then we got Melania's speech. I'm gonna play the NASCAR stuff in India. I don't know, but I'm gonna do that. So I think I'm going to do I gotta get everything all straightened up here. I know. I think we're all out of popcorn. Okay. I'm gonna do the 6 clips from Dearborn again, because that has to come out. It's real important that people see this. But I think the first one is 5 minutes, and all the other ones will be smaller. Entertainment, opinions only, YouTube, everything.
fucking show. I say we give them one.
So what do you think, Paul? Insurrection, just like January 6th, right?
Let him point that gun again. Yeah, hey, why don't we go get our armed brothers? Oh, you want to point guns at them?
Let's go
You'll
get
see
them.
a law-abiding citizen shoot you if you point a gun at us.
More.
Hallelujah!
Jesus!
Hallelujah!
Jesus!
Hallelujah!
Jesus!
Hallelujah!
Jesus!
Hallelujah!
Who died for your sins?
Jesus!
Who died for your sins?
Jesus!
Who died?
To die. You get that? Point that gun at us again. Point it at us again. Took his shirt off, he's running away.
Why would Dearborn Police let you guys stage in the back
of your guns? We the people do not give a fuck. We're pissed.
You're
We don't
smiling
give a
and
fuck
laughing,
about
and you
your
work
shit
for the Detroit
R-15.
News? You think it's funny?
You're fucking
You work for the Detroit News, and you think it's funny?
here.
See those shooting spins? We're good. Yeah. Imagine the rainbow. Look at this bitch.
Hey,
You're not
let
going to
this
assault
be
me. I will
record.
assault you back. I don't
Brothers
give a
in
fuck who
Christ,
standing here.
let this be record to tell that the law enforcement is cursed to hell too.
Amen.
There's no right. What? They're going to point a gun at an American? I'm 8th generation. We don't want beef. That's why none of us brought
I'm not going to
guns.
arrest him because he told me to arrest him.
Hey, you can change clothes too. Oh, you can't kill me.
Get that flag off the ground.
It's
okay for him to point a gun at me. I pull out a gun.
Form a solid line and not move.
Yeah, I hope so, Paul.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Go get brother. Come here. You're good. Check in.
Are you so?
I'm gonna do anything. Oh, there you go. Do something about it because they're part of it. They're part of it.
Hey, that's a chico.
My wife protects herself. They're protecting.
Press back. Sorry.
What's the next thing skin?
Arrest you using to speak with the police.
We're just almost over.
For what cause? You didn't give me probably. And there's tons of people, so you just take anyone's word. We took
If you know it, so stay cool.
These fucking idiots don't know how anything about this gear, too.
No, we're trying to do the less amount of least amount of damage.
Well, I'm really upset because I'm being arrested for smoking my First Amendment rights.
Yeah,
Your
Dave.
right to remain silent. Everything
I
you
got
say
6
can and will be
clips.
used against you. The natural law never did.
I'm under arrest for being silent. They said I had to walk over and talk to them, and I refused. And so I'm being arrested.
I guts to fucking talk.
Okay, that's the first one. 5 more. God dang it. I guess I have to go up more. Hang on a second. The heck?
Death call. Islam is a death ideology. Where it goes, it causes death and violence and decay. All the countries around the world, we've seen what Islam did there. We're not going to let that happen in America. We're going to stand up.
What can I call you there? I can't pronounce the name right. Sorry. Nico? Oh, that's right, Nico. I remember. It's been a while.
First, Jesus Christ bled at the cross for our freedom. Then he sent troops.
He loved Jesus more than me. I want y'all to be the judge. This is a simple contest. Check it out. I love Jesus. He says he loved Jesus. Check it out.
This is my state about
Jesus is God. Bow the knee and say it. Hallelujah. He loves him. He's a prophet. He's a prophet. I love him more than you. He's God. He's God. Jesus is God. Bow the knee. Bow the knee. Yes, you know you're there. Bow the knee. You love him. You love Jesus. Bow the knee. He's a prophet. Jesus is God. You don't love him. We're only facing Jesus. My brothers and sisters is this right here.
The judgment. Jesus Christ, the only one who never sinned in all history. He's the only one known under heaven. There's only one name given under heaven by which we must be saved. There's no one else that made Jesus Christ. Forsake the false way. Islam is a death call. Islam is a death ideology. Where it goes, it causes.
Okay, I got 4 more. Plus the extra one I got to play. It's a short one.
Causes death and violence and decay. All the countries around the world, we've seen what Islam did there. We're not going to let that happen in America. We're going to stand up in the name of Jesus. We're going to stand for the freedom that came at the cross first. Jesus Christ bled at the cross for our freedom. Then he sent troops.
He loved Jesus more than me. I want y'all to be the judge. This is a simple contest. Check it out. I love Jesus. He says he loved Jesus. Check it out. Jesus is God. Bow the knee and say it. Hallelujah. He loves him. He's a prophet. I love him more than you. He's God. He's God. Jesus is God. Bow the knee. Bow the knee. Yes, you know you're there. Bow the knee. You love him. You love Jesus. Bow the knee. He's a prophet. Jesus is God. You don't love him. My brothers and sisters is this right here.
The judgment. Jesus Christ, the only one who never sinned in all history. He's the only one known under heaven. There's only one name given under heaven by which we must be saved. There's no one else that made Jesus Christ. Forsake the.
Okay, I got 3 more. Well, actually 4.
Here we go.
and Lang infiltrated our shit, but we were man enough to see if all the mainstream media lies were true. So we came down here for a week and a half, not in this truck, trying to catch this call to prayer. You know what it's like to wake up at fucking 2 a.m. and get home at fucking literally like midnight? I did that shit for a week solid. Nothing. Then we come to a couple mosques, and the second imam said, Anthony, if we were to do the Sharia law like you think, it would be repugnant to the Constitution. And I'm like, did you fucking say repugnant? Did we just become best friends? Holy shit. They know the Constitution and Bible probably better than most of us. I was humbled, not gonna lie. So now I'm down here just keeping the peace. Both sides, they need to be de-brainwashed. And we just need to come together. United we stand, divided we fall. Dearborn's super diverse. 100%. As an American, it's my right to protect the Muslims' rights, the Jews' rights, the Satanist rights, the Christians' rights, whatever. It's called freedom of religion. There can be no law made respecting or anything. Or put it like this in English. When it comes to religion, the government can fuck all the way off. That's the best way to put it. And that's why we're free. And that was the first thing. And then you can get the Treaty of Tripoli, Section 11, clearly states we're not founded on Christianity. Jason Dye. I'm running for Attorney General for this state under the Libertarian ticket. And I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. How many pedophiles are on the Republican Party running for office or sitting in office? 19. How many's on the Democrat Party? 14. How many's in the Libertarian Party? 0.
Good job.
Tread on them. We need to get rid of corrupt government. That's.
We have more cops here today than when Jake Lang got beat down, and nobody got arrested then. But I've already seen a couple white boys already taken off in handcuffs, and nobody's even here. This is little compared to that. Are you kidding me? Where's the equality? Show me. I would love to see it.
That'll be a good one. No, USA!
Play a game with God. Don't try to act like you got a savior. Islam doesn't have a savior. Islam
I'm not.
Okay, I got 2 or 3 more here. This one. This guy is something else. This one's a short clip.
They don't got it.
Fucking get a bomb, motherfuckers.
Okay, 2 more, you guys. 2 more.
somewhere else. I'm making a dig on. Take the truth. Get over. Somewhere else. Do shit.
Hey, let's go.
We had a discussion with Palestine.
We saw that part. Okay, we got one more part. Then we'll get to our First Lady.
This is our song. We'll fight the powers that we just don't
Oh, this is my state, you guys. That was my state. Hour away from there. So I think I got a 3.5 minute video with Melania and a motorcycle chase.
Who stand in support of my
God dang it.
stand in support of.
Why is that doing that? Ah. I'll get it eventually.
Support of my Fostering the Future initiative. The greatest achievement, investment America can make is not in technology, infrastructure, or capital markets. It's our children. We are at the beginning of an era defined by artificial intelligence, robotics, and industries that have yet to be imagined. But America's greatest competitive advantage remains in its own people. Tomorrow's leaders are sitting in classrooms today, including those growing up in foster care. Their capability is no less remarkable. Fostering the Future elevates America's youth based on merit and talent, lifting them beyond economic circumstance and every other condition that may limit opportunity. Our mission is simple yet transformational. Provide every young person from the foster care community the chance to earn a college education, launch a meaningful career, and achieve lasting financial independence. Today, Indiana University and Purdue University join Fostering the Future's growing coast-to-coast alliance of leading academic institutions. Congratulations and thank you. Together, they expand a national network of 26 universities that prepare our foster youth to shape America's growth. I'm very proud to share that this last spring, Fostering the Future scholarships supported the education of our first doctor. He will change the lives of so many people. Tomorrow, thanks to visionary partners such as IndyCar and Fox, Fostering the Future graduates will build new companies, launch new industries, and redefine what is possible for all Americans. Fostering the Future is more than an educational initiative. It is generational investment in America's talent pipeline. Every student who graduates strengthens our workforce, accelerates innovation, expands economic opportunity, and reduces long-term dependence on government assistance. The return of this investment is measured not only in lives changed for the better, but in stronger communities, a more competitive nation, and a future powered by American ingenuity. Education is the one asset that can never be taken away. It is the foundation upon which confidence is built, opportunity is created, and the future is invented. And finally, look at this incredible race car, gorgeous and powerful. I'm sure we cannot wait to see it start its engine. Good luck to all of the drivers and teams on Sunday's race. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce a true champion.
Okay, that's about the race for this weekend. First Lady.
Match up here. So as he basically looks around, most likely here's the helicopters. He is trying to get gas. They will be pulling in here, guys. I've got to believe any second. Pull the pump. This is really getting crazy really quick. This is dangerous under normal circumstances, but with with a live hot pursuit, the risk here is amplifying by the second. He is dialing buddies up like there's no tomorrow. I mean, I don't know who in the world he's calling. I mean, he's coming within inches of oncoming traffic as he carries on these conversations. This is at least the second time he is actually talking into the speakerphone like he's on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, trying to figure out who his lifeline is and trying to figure out where he's going to hide this bike. He is apparently on the phone with one of our photographers. Somehow, he has managed to reach ABC7, and now he's what in the world? He got somebody to put gas in a gallon container for him and leave it in the park. He just put gas in that bike. Somebody was able to drop gas off in the middle of the park. LAPD, look at people running through the park. LAPD in the park, now crossing through this major intersection. That's Broadway and El Segundo Boulevard. People running for their lives through the park as he now tries to flee LAPD after a fresh gallon of gas that somebody left waiting for him in that park. This is unbelievable. Just when you thought you've seen it all, this is really, it really takes on a new level of concern here. He's continuing to drive recklessly, blowing through major intersections, obviously not in the right frame of mind. On the road, oh, threading through here, look at that. That is Imperial Highway at Figueroa, another wild left turn there. I mean, he has 9 lives, this guy. It's unbelievable. He appears to have dumped the bike. He is now running through private property and jumping fences on foot. He is now hiding in a trash bin in one of these properties, and that appears to be most likely his final hiding spot. As it appears, LAPD has the suspect at gunpoint along the 200 block of 112th Street. He is going to put that down, and it appears that he is now willing to comply with those orders as LAPD takes him into custody momentarily at gunpoint. The entire arrest team at the end of this alley waiting with handcuffs. As he now...
That was a wild chase there, huh?
Another small Minnesota fraudster who was awarded in 2021 the most outstanding refugee award by Tim Walz and Peggy Flanagan. Meanwhile, he was committing massive amount of fraud. Him and 3 other individuals were operating 4 different businesses: autism, home health, and assisted living. And they were bringing in young girls who were vulnerable, who were broke, homeless, who needed help. They brought them in, gave them apartments, and they were operating a SEX for trade scheme. They stole these girls' identities and they were billing Medicaid off of their Medicaid numbers, upwards of $4.5 million. Then the Somalian named Salami, 30 years old, went a little bit further. He opened up another business. In 2024, he was able to bill Medicaid over $1 million. So the 4 of them, within a few short years, were able to siphon in over $6 million from Medicaid funding. Solomon and the others have been arrested, but Solomon, the Somalian, has actually been let out. The judge let him out, took his passport, but then said, come back in a few months for your trial. This is what is going on in Minnesota, where they literally have stolen our taxpayer dollars. That's why I call it Minnesota. Some stuff you just can't make up.
I did about 6 clips from the thing from yesterday. We had another good show on the first one today. I got 2 with Nick's mom.
Stabbed a 42-year-old mother. This is what happened. Alexios Campos crossed illegally into America at the El Paso, Texas region in August of 2024. He's from El Salvador. He was 17 at the time. He is now 19. He was working at a restaurant where he met this 42-year-old mother. They were in a relationship. They had plans to go on a hike. They met at a hiking site. But before the hike, videos show him leaving the restaurant with a knife, gloves, and a water bottle. With that water bottle, he siphoned out gasoline from his motorcycle and put it in the water bottle. The hike did not go as planned. He fatally stabbed the 42-year-old mother. Then, with the gasoline that was in the water bottle, he poured it on her body, attempting to light her body on fire. He has confessed to the crime. He has confessed to killing her. Unfortunately, now a mother is dead. A 3-year-old is left without a mother, all because of Joe Biden's open border, letting a 17-year-old from El Salvador come illegally into America. And in Fairfax County, Virginia, they are very lenient on illegal immigrants. And now look what has happened. A 42-year-old mother is dead and a 3-year-old is left without a mother.
I can't believe that. 19 years old. Another immigrant killing somebody. Okay, I got the cowboy guy with just one. I think there's only one today.
And I noticed that a lot of people from my local area were sharing a link to an obituary of a young man who had died, who was around my age. And as I looked into these posts, I noticed that all these people were saying the same thing about this man, about what a nice person he was and how he was a good guy and everybody liked him. And when I looked into this, I wanted to see more, because when you see somebody that you know that dies that's around your age, it hits a little different. And I looked deeper into these posts and I saw so many of them of everybody saying how he was such a nice person. And I thought, surely somebody's going to say it. And I never saw one person talking about how he loved Jesus and how he knew Jesus. And I thought, man, what is it going to look like if I leave this world today? I really searched my heart. I'm not trying to condemn this guy. I don't know his personal relationship with Jesus, but it made me search my heart and ask myself, if I leave this world today, what are people going to say about me? Because being a nice person and a good person is not going to be what gets you into the gates of heaven. I've been to a lot of funerals where the preacher gets up and they immediately tell the family, oh, he's in a better place now. And they stand up there and try to preach people into heaven. But the Bible tells me that it is appointed unto all men to die once, and after this, the judgment. And make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, whether you believe in Jesus or you don't, we all have that one thing in common. We are going to die and stand before our Creator. And there's only going to be two types of people that stand at the gates of eternity on that day. There's going to be the haves and the have-nots. That's going to be the people who have the Holy Spirit and the blood of Jesus Christ, and those who have not. What do people see?
Okay, that's a short one today. Okay, we got 9 minutes. I think we got Spreewell news.
And get the funds to upgrade your health.
Certainly all of us have had our runs of bad luck, our ups and downs, our embarrassing stretches, but nobody, and I mean no one, has had as bad of a year as Eric Swalwell. And that's a guy who actually crapped his pants on live
The president
TV.
used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
See that? He crapped his pants on live TV. Not only did he stop, he made this face, but he also stopped speaking and moved backwards just to let...
Used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
See that? Yeah. Eric Swalwell denied it and said that he was moving a coffee cup across the table inside of the studio at MSNBC. Okay. Not the first time that Eric Swalwell has lied to the American public about something humiliating going on in his pants. Eric Swalwell was proven a liar this week when he admitted to the FBI, or at the very least it was made public, that he told the FBI that he had multiple hookups with a Chinese spy, a physical relationship where Christine Fang, a Chinese spy, was able to place staffers in Eric Swalwell's office after placing his staff, well, you know where. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a really bad time for Eric Swalwell to have these revelations, as Eric Swalwell already resigned from Congress this year, as plenty of other staffers came forward and said that he has sexually abused them and assaulted them. Eric Swalwell, married with kids. Jeez. You know, I don't know what to tell these ladies. There's a phenotype. You should watch out for left-wing male feminists. That's just it. Eric Swalwell had to end his entire political career. Here's his resignation. And with the reveal that Eric Swalwell had these affairs and had this behavior, not just with Fang, which was also criminal. The FBI was looking into how Eric Swalwell got paid effectively to let the Chinese place staff members inside of his office. Just a reminder, Eric Swalwell was on the Foreign Affairs Committee, aptly named. Nothing's ever been better named. No writer could come up with this. It's perfect. Anyway, this is a national security crisis, and the FBI was going to arrest Eric Swalwell. They decided to call the whole thing off because Jack Smith was in charge, and it would hurt a Democrat. So they didn't actually go after Swalwell, and Eric Swalwell said he was cleared of wrongdoing. But we know that that's all false now. We know it's fake, and it looks like the FBI is potentially back for vengeance because Eric Swalwell was just stopped at the airport and detained. I'm not sure if you could say arrested, but the FBI threw him into a room and took all of his devices. FBI agents confront Eric Swalwell at San Francisco airport, seize all electronics as part of sexual misconduct allegations. Now, could this have to do with Fang? I mean, I think this is obviously the most serious charge here, that Eric Swalwell was selling American secrets. He's a traitor. He should go to Guantanamo Bay for that. He should, face a military tribunal. Eric Swalwell was selling access to America, to classified materials to the communist Chinese. So, I think that's worth potentially, reinvestigating. There's no statute of limitations on that. Anyway, the FBI says that they confronted Eric Swalwell, search warrant, when he landed at San Francisco airport Saturday and seized his electronic devices. Ooh, baby. Including his cell phone as part of a federal crime investigation, allegations of sexual misconduct. Uh-oh. The agents, armed with additional court-approved search warrants, entered the house, his house in Washington, D.C. on Sunday, seizing undisclosed potential evidence, well-placed sources say. So they got into his house, They're taking his cell phone now. Sources say the former representative started his day Saturday in Washington, where he still maintains a residence with his wife and 3 children. Now, the big knock on Eric Swalwell was that he was supposed to be the governor of California, and he didn't have a residence there. So apparently, Eric Swalwell doesn't have a legitimate address in California. Well, anyway, he lives in Washington, D.C., right? Even though he's humiliated and disgraced. He headed to the airport later that day and flew home to California. The feds were waiting for him when he stepped off the plane. According to sources, Swalwell was cooperative. The following day, neither he and his wife were home. The feds rolled up to their property in Northeast D.C. He faces multiple sexual assault allegations. At least 4 women have made sexual misconduct allegations, including a former staffer who claimed that the married politician raped her twice and was intoxicated. She was too intoxicated to consent. Of course, these are crimes. Jeez. Anyway, try not to dog on the guy's wife, but if there's a lesson to be learned here, never marry a male feminist, you know what I mean? Another woman alleged that he drugged and raped her in 2018. 2 women that he said sent unsolicited pictures of his congressional staff. The Department of Justice launched an investigation into the disgraced former congressman in April. Swalwell was also being investigated in Manhattan District Attorney's Office and Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Swalwell vehemently denied the allegations, and they torpedoed his governor's campaign, a reminder that there are clips, literally, of Swalwell assaulting these women. I think one of them was a prostitute. Anyway, FBI surprises Eric Swalwell at the airport. Sucks to suck, dude. This is the same guy that called me a Russian agent. This is the same guy that was trying to put me in prison. I know this is a matter of fact. Coming after me because of a literal op that was run against me. And most likely by Jack Smith. I mean, most likely by the deep state. This is my personal opinion on the matter, but it just makes perfect sense to me. They were trying to wrap all of us up and do the wrap-ups here. They're trying to smear and slander all of us, destroy our careers. Well, anyway, now it's Eric Swalwell who's destroyed. So it's hard to not have a little bit of schadenfreude with all this, because the dude's career is officially done. FBI agents seized his cell phone, agents searched his home, sexual misconduct allegation, and no doubt allegations about the actual most dangerous thing here for Eric Swalwell, which is this report right here. That FBI knows that Swalwell got illegal donations, that's a matter of fact. Were those donations a quid pro quo for the Communist Chinese to place staffers in his office? Well, whatever happened, they did do that. The Chinese were able to put staffers in his office. And here we go. Gonna lock him up. Gotta lock him up. The FBI has now gotten warrants on Swalwell. I mean, listen, if you're getting a warrant on the guy, then you really have proven to a judge, we all have a Fourth Amendment right, you've proven to a judge that Eric Swalwell has committed some type of crime. You've provided evidence that Eric Swalwell committed crimes, big crimes. I voted for this so effing hard. Seize this traitor's passport as well. He's going to try and make a mad dash for Beijing. That's exactly right. Ready to meet Bubba, you creepy loser. Ooh. Significant development in the federal probe investigators examine. Here's the Fox report, ladies and gentlemen. Lock him.
Breaking news. We have just learned that the FBI has seized former Congressman Eric Swalwell's electronics, and this happened on Saturday. They took those electronics from him at San Francisco International Airport on Saturday and then from his Washington, D.C. home on Sunday. Eric Swalwell was not detained or arrested, and we're told the federal investigation involves sexual misconduct allegations against him. 2 women who have spoken publicly about sex misconduct allegations against Swalwell we know about. The FBI is not commenting further details on this case, and Fox News has contacted Swalwell's attorney. We're waiting to hear back.
Hey. First one with Benny. Now I got a 15-minute one. I'm going to get one of those started. Let me know about you guys.
Hey guys, it's KJ from The Scariest Movie Ever. And it seems these tech billionaires are naming their robot control centers after demons and fallen angels that the Bible specifically warned about. the same entities that God sent the flood to destroy. That's not a coincidence, and it's not just cool sounding names. They're telling you what they're building, all to get ready for the mass disappearance of human beings, let's say, the post-human existence coming on by the next world war and other factors. These data centers are being built to teach artificial intelligence how to control robot armies, just like the Terminator. Robots that can hunt people, identify targets, and take a life without waiting for a human to approve it. Here's one of the companies I'm talking about, Stratos. You can even see here they're showing you the grid they're creating all around the world, like Project Stargate AI. But it's interesting to keep in mind that Stratos comes from the ancient Greek archistratos, where archon means demonic ruler, and then stratos means army. In Ephesians 6, Paul uses the word archons to describe the rulers, the authorities, the powers of this dark world, and the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. And that's biblical Greek for demons, the principalities running the fallen world system. And here we find it with Stratos. Here's another one of the companies. This one's called Hyperion. And Hyperion means the high one or watcher from above in ancient Greek. In the book of Enoch, the watchers were fallen angels who came to earth before the flood, took human wives, taught humanity weapons and sorcery, created the Nephilim, and corrupted creation so completely that God drowned the entire planet. Hyperion, the high one, watcher from above. And here's another one, an AI company called Prometheus. And this was created by Jeff Bezos, November 2025. And Prometheus, if you didn't know, is a titan in Greek mythology, known for defying the Olympian gods by stealing fire and giving it to humanity, symbolizing knowledge and civilization. So it's really a mirror of Lucifer, bringing enlightenment and knowledge to mankind, but our Father God didn't want that. So we see this same story reflected there again. But there's something interesting about Prometheus. It's not just the fact that it's a company here from Bezos. It seems that Mark Zuckerberg has announced Meta is building several massive AI data centers with primary projects named Prometheus and Hyperion once again. So Prometheus, not just Bezos, but also Zuckerberg with Prometheus, the Titan, the giant. By now, I'm sure you've heard of Palantir, the company. It's also connected with the White House, the Trump administration. They're tasked with helping to bring in this Project Stargate AI, which is going to be like a grid, an AI grid around the world. But here we have Palantir, and Palantir is actually a fictional magical artifact from J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, and it was described as an indestructible crystal ball used for communication and seeing events in distant places of the past. Also, it's translated to farsight or watch over, but interesting we find kind of that occult meaning here behind another one of these AI companies. Not incredibly surprised. There's even an argument to be made that
I stopped it by accident. So you guys want me to continue it or not? Okay, I'll go on to I got a three-part Antarctica we'll do. Sorry about that one.
Exactly. And that's the part nobody really talks about. Everybody assumes the ice wall is the boundary, right? You reach this enormous wall of ice, and that's where the known world supposedly ends. But there was an expedition that went beyond it, and what they found wasn't open ocean. They kept traveling for hours and eventually came across another wall. Same kind of structure, just absolutely massive, stretching across the horizon in both directions. At first, they thought it was some kind of mountain range, but as they got closer, they realized it was completely vertical.
There was literally another boundary?
Exactly, and here's where it gets interesting. One of the pilots took an aircraft up to get a better look over the top. When he finally got high enough, he could see what was on the other side. There was land, not some tiny island either. an enormous stretch of terrain with mountains, rivers, forests, everything. And that's when they realized the first ice wall wasn't the edge of the world. It was just the boundary of the region we'd been living in.
Wait, then what's the second wall actually separating?
Comment ice wall for part 2.
You're saying there's another ice wall.
Yeah, part 2 and part 3. How's this one, you guys?
Wanted to find out. They flew along the wall for days looking for any kind of opening until they finally found something that looked like a passage through the ice. And that's when they noticed the towers. There were massive structures built on both sides of the passage, almost like someone had constructed a checkpoint there. They weren't ruins either. There were lights inside them, and every tower had the same strange symbol carved into its surface. At first, the pilot thought it might just be some kind of marker, but the longer they watched, the stranger it got. The lights inside the towers weren't random. They were turning on one after another, following the aircraft as it moved along the wall.
So they knew the aircraft was there?
That's what it looked like, and that's when the pilot made a decision. Instead of approaching the passage, he started pulling away from the wall. But a few minutes later, he noticed something moving in the distance. At first, he thought it was another expedition aircraft. Then he realized there were several of them. They were coming from the other side. He immediately turned back toward the first ice wall, and the strange thing was, none of those aircraft crossed the second wall. They just stayed on the other side and followed him from a distance. That's when the expedition finally understood what they'd found. They hadn't discovered an abandoned boundary. They'd found a boundary that was being watched, and whoever was watching them had been there long before they arrived.
Wait, then what's the second wall actually separating?
That's what they...
Part 3 now.
We weren't getting through it by force. Those aircraft had already shown us what they could do, so we came up with a different plan. The other pilot would make a run directly toward the wall and give them something to chase. While every aircraft was focused on him, I would take my plane in from the other side.
So you were basically using your own guy as bait?
People don't end up in history by playing it safe, buddy. He flew straight toward the wall, and almost immediately those aircraft started following him, just like we expected. And while everyone was watching that, I dropped low, turned off everything I could, and headed for the wall. As soon as I crossed it, an alarm suddenly blared through the cockpit, loud as hell. I knew they'd detected me, so I pushed the throttle forward and pushed as hard as it would go. I remember looking back through the cockpit and seeing that enormous wall disappear behind me. And for the first time, there was nothing between me and whatever was out there. Then my radio came alive.
What did they say?
They told me to turn around immediately. They said I'd entered restricted airspace and that I was approaching an area I wasn't authorized to enter. I didn't turn around. A few minutes later, they contacted me again. This time they sounded different. They said, "You don't understand what you're entering. Turn back now." And I remember thinking, that's exactly why I'm here. So I kept flying. I went farther and farther away from the wall until I couldn't even see it anymore. There was nothing but ocean beneath me. Then the radio went completely silent. A few seconds later, my warning system lit up.
Missile?
From nowhere. I barely had time to react. The missile hit and the whole aircraft started breaking apart. I ejected, and as I was falling, I looked down expecting to see nothing but ocean. But there was something underneath me, a ship, not a boat. This thing was enormous, completely red, with a design I'd never seen anywhere on Earth. I had no other option. I could try to land in the ocean and probably drown or take my chances with whatever was below me. So I turned my parachute toward the ship and took my chances. I landed hard on the deck. I got up, looked around, and there were people standing all around me. Nobody moved. Nobody said anything. Then one of them looked at the remains of my parachute, looked toward the sky where my aircraft had disappeared, and said, "You came from the inner wall."
Okay.
So how are those 3 clips? Next one is a speaker, 4 minutes. Then I got a 12-minute one. I'll get Billy Bean here in a bit.
1 second and you'll be removed. What do you want to do? Put them down or you're going to be, there's no books, no paraphernalia. That's the council rules. Hey, let's go.
For 3 years straight, the #1 name in the country of England for newborn babies is Muhammad. Tell me that white Christians are not being invaded. How can you lie to our faces with your takia? This is an invasion on all fronts. Our people are being pushed out of the workplace. We're being pushed out of city councils. That smug face of the takia Muslims needs to be wiped off these people's faces. These people are looking to destroy us. These people are looking to outbreed us. The Muslims have not come here to assimilate. They have come here to steal the wealth of this land, to rape our women. What about the 250,000 women in England that were raped by Pakistani Muslims and they got little slaps on the wrist from the woke Democratic regime? The Muslims are being used by the Democrats to instill socialism in America. We know it. Look at all of your top Muslim leaders. They all pander to homosexuality, the trans agenda, and to socialism. You're fake Muslims. You're just using the Democrats, these woke liberal idiots, the women in New York, to gain power. And once the Muslims have power in this country, then they will start throwing the homosexuals off the roofs, just like they do in Palestine. You guys all cry about Palestine. Try being a white Christian man preaching the word of God in Palestine. Guess what might happen to you? The same thing that happened to me here in Dearborn, Michigan. You will be stoned for saying the name of Jesus Christ in Palestine, in Afghanistan, in Yemen, in Iraq. Jesus Christ is outlawed in those countries, and we will stand. The crusade has begun. Your time in this country is running short. The time of stealing from the Detroit Black Christian American is over. It's over. Muslims, go home before we send you home. We have cruise ships, we have planes, we have trains, and we're going to pack them out with all of the Arabs. You have to go home. We don't want you here. Our founding fathers gave this country to their posterity. White Christians, and they brought along with them their black friends, and now we're here to reclaim America for the blacks and the white people.
We have 30
and the Spanish.
seconds remaining.
We will not allow these third world mongrels to run roughshod over us without a fight. The body of Christ is one. If you are in Christ, you are my brother. If you stand against Islam, you are my brother. If you are willing to stand up and take this country back, you are my brother. Join the Crusades and extricate this filth from our country. We will have our way. Come blood or sweat, we will have our way.
Your time
this
has
is your
expired.
Christian land. Christ is king.
Thank you.
Christ is king.
Okay, I hope that was okay. I got Fetterman on CNN, I believe. Yeah.
Criticized several of El Sayed's progressive policies. You've been involved in a public dispute with him as well. What's your reaction to his victory that we've now projected in this key battleground state of Michigan?
Well, I think it definitely puts the seat in play. Michigan typically doesn't really elect a Republican in the Senate for a while. And now Rogers was a very strong candidate, objectively. He barely lost to Slotkin, and she's a very strong candidate, and she just barely won back then. So now, if you've seen some of the polling, El Sayed is under maybe 5 to 6 points or more against him. And now some real money is going to flood into that state. And a lot of the things that he has done and said during the primary, we're going to come back to haunt, like campaigning with a guy that loves Hamas and is very proud to stand with communist regimes.
So you're talking about Hassan Piker.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Who was out there with El Sayed on the campaign trail. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, you'll be able to find out what he really thinks. Is he still going to campaign with a guy that proud to love Hamas? We'll see. Are you going to campaign with a guy that openly loved Mao and even dresses like him for events? So overall, you're going to find out he was he had a very arrogant campaign, and now today he just discovered that less than a majority of your state's only Democrats didn't even want you and vote for you. You came in around 48%. So you have a real situation as Democrats now that puts that seat in play.
So already, guys, I could tell what my mom said is 100% true. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. This guy, Wolf Blitzer, has been playing very, very like he doesn't know what's going on. I don't want to say what I want to say on YouTube because they'll suppress the video, but he's been playing this way for so long, like he doesn't know what's going on, that I'm starting to think he actually doesn't know what's going on. And you're going to see that throughout this interview. And this is just bizarre for John Fetterman to be the first person they interview on this situation when this guy doesn't sit there and tell you what you want to hear. He tells you what's going on. He's like a Senator Kennedy to me, a younger Senator Kennedy. Let's keep going, guys.
President Trump just moments ago called El Sayed's projected victory in Michigan, and I'm quoting Trump now, great news for the Republican Party, labeling El Sayed a, quote, communist loser who hates Jews and Israel, end quote. How do you respond to what the president is saying, and do you agree with his assessment?
I'm saying objectively, as a Democrat that understands how to win a competitive state, it's like it does put it in play. And 100% the Republicans were eager to run against him, and that's where we are. And now you see how close it was. 14,000 votes out of 1.5 million votes, and now that's a divided primary. And he has said a lot of negative things towards her and other people. And now I think he's going to find out that he has to mend fences, as he said. Well, I guess we'll see.
Considering El Sayed's win in Michigan, and we've now projected he is the winner in the Michigan primary, are you willing to consider that perhaps you are the Democrat missing what voters want from their candidates?
So for me, what if this candidate, I have a great relationship with vast majority of Democrats. We have really great candidates across the map in Ohio, Georgia, in Texas, we have great ones. But, I have a real problem with people that are proud to campaign people that loved Hamas or that they love communist kinds of regime and under those kinds of policies overall. And that's why I'm saying objectively as a Democrat in the Senate saying that puts that seat in danger. And now that could, and now people like Sanders, after what he's done in Maine with Plattner, and now it's like it's creating more kinds of chaos. And now it's like, will you own the blowback and making it much more difficult to defend this seat?
If a Democratic Senate primary were held in Pennsylvania today, the Commonwealth, as you like to call it, of Pennsylvania, do you believe you would win? If there was a Democratic primary in Pennsylvania.
Like today?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's we don't know exactly, but overall, it's 2026, so it's really kind of a theoretic.
It is a hypothetical question. But I asked the question because you told my colleague Manu Raju last month, you probably remember, that you would leave the Democratic Party if it adopts an anti-Israel policy, calling it your red line. What exactly does that look like? And at what point will you make that decision to potentially leave your own Democratic Party?
Well, I've said this, if the party adds that into the platform. If they say we become a party that will never vote for aid for Israel, or if we will define Israel as the aggressor, or that's the problem in the region, so then that's would force me to reconsider that.
That one issue alone, just Israel, if the Democratic platform upcoming were to say some anti-Israel stuff, you would leave?
Well, that's become the defining, really the defining litmus in this race. I mean, if you've been following the Michigan race, it was AIPAC, 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 AIPAC. I mean, that really made that the center of that race and all the other races across our country. So
AIPAC, the pro-Israel lobby organization. Why is Israel, another country, your red line right now, this is what your critics are saying, rather than a domestic issue that impacts Americans' everyday lives?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with a lot of Democrats too. And then when you migrate into these extreme kinds of views and embrace the kinds of people that should really be considered toxic.
You guys have to respect John Fetterman, a Senator Kennedy, a J.D. Vance, a Marco Rubio. Why? Because they could sit there and they can get asked the same exact question 30 different times, 25 different ways, and they're going to sit there and they're going to remember what they said, but they're not going to let the interviewer know that this is getting easy. I could do this all day. I could sit there and keep answering this question, and make it sound better and better and better. These guys know how to articulate themselves in a way that's beyond me.
So, of course, I'm entitled to my opinion, and if you're proud to campaign with those individuals, great. That's really up to them. You know, I called trash Plattner. I called that he is a real problem, and now why people seem to be okay with it. Why was Bernie Sanders okay with the guy? And he was already the Nazi tattoo. And after all the allegations of roughing up his ex-girlfriends and saying terrible things, indefensible things online, and you would push these kinds of candidates that put our ability to reclaim the majority at serious risk.
I hear everything you're saying, but why is Israel your red line, the major issue that would force you potentially to leave your own party?
Because I think we have our nation has a very special responsibility to protect and support Israel. I mean, we're Democrats. We're the ones that have a very kinds of progressive values. That's the nation that only has those kinds of similar values in that entire region. And now, if you look at the kind of danger and the circumstances there, remind people that Israel is not the aggressor. They've been pushed into this existential war. And now I think for me, it's very critical that I'm proud to say I will always vote and support Israel.
You guys see how he keeps saying, so if this was to change, you would sit there and you would leave the Democratic Party and you would join the Republican Party. He already said yes. He even said that himself. You didn't have to ask him that. He said it himself. That's what CNN tries to do. They try to control this narrative and they try to make it this versus this. I don't believe in parties. I believe in being American, and I believe fighting against Americans. That's all I believe in. So the people that are sitting there dissing Trump and hating everything he does, you could sit there and say it's red versus blue, but I don't believe that. I think it's American versus the people that don't want to support other Americans. Let me know if I'm wrong, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you're new. And as always, let me know what you react to. We're out.
Okay, that was another good one he got. Interview. That's Lucy's state. What do you think, Lucy, on that one?
Thanks for like, subscribe, and share. So some of the things we'll cover. What is the sun doing? President Trump plays ball. 50,000 North Korean troops in Ukraine. And U.S. has a plan to crush Iran. And U.S. Power Grid Plus was seriously threatened yesterday. We haven't heard an update yet today. So that's going on. So we'll begin with space weather. We had coming off of the sun at an angle that's likely not going to hit the Earth, but we did have an M8 class flare that also released a CME. So we see the sun becoming more active. We have this about a new type of AI data center by Samsung that floats in the sea and uses seawater to cool itself. This from a Patriot subscriber who asked, have I heard anything yet about Iran enriching uranium in Venezuela, which would perhaps avail Iran of a launch site in Venezuela to hit the U.S. So that's going on. This is from Breitbart. So we have what's going on. We had a recent boat accident with a charter boat in New York Harbor.
There's
I think 10 to 14 people were on the boat. It was overloaded. And the captain of the boat told the people getting on that they didn't need life jackets. It turns out he's an illegal, not licensed. The boat overturned, and a young mother and baby drowned. So this is coming from U.S. Coast Guard investigator Josh Packer. So we see the illegals continue to kill American citizens. We have this from Stephen Gardner.
Okay.
The FBI has arrested Edward Sinbari. I believe they caught up with him in Fiji for fraud, $165 million in crypto fraud. And we're seeing in China a major dip in China's economy. This is coming out from China Observer. And this dip in China's economy is across all industries, including agriculture, manufacturing, and banks. So that's going on. We heard about 2 months ago that within about 2 to 3 months, it was possible for either Russia or China to fail economically. So we'll keep an eye out on that. So we have this also going on. We had a very credible threat to the U.S. Power grid, water, internet, cell phones, and so on. This threat came out yesterday per U.S. intel from the NSA, FBI, DOE, Department of Energy, EPA, CISA, Cybersecurity, that an unidentified group of hackers were targeting U.S. infrastructure, including manufacturing plants and also our energy, water, waste disposal, chemical companies, food companies, and agriculture. And they were targeting Siemens, a programmable logic controller that could operate pumps and valves and other parts of our infrastructure. So I'm glad to hear that I didn't hear more about that this morning.
Before you trust anyone with your new teeth, there are 5 things about all-on-4 implants you need to know. And
we have this. So we have from Promethean update, a Canadian foreign minister, Melanie Jolie, went over to the UK where she gave a speech to UK government, bad-mouthing the US, and then arrogantly boasted that she was going to be traveling across the US to meet with the Democratic Party. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it illegal for US citizens to meet with foreign leaders? Doesn't that have to go through the State Department? I think so. And we see more and more Canada is not a partner with the US so much as an adversary trying to take steps in the US to take down the US economy. Now, certainly this doesn't apply to the Canadian people, but it does apply, I believe, to the Canadian government, including their Prime Minister Carney. I believe that Carney and Melanie Jolie are actively at work for the deep state located in the city of London. So that's going on. And we have this. We have that, China is repackaging goods to get around the U.S. tariff on Chinese goods. They repackage them and ship them through Canada. Canada is fully on board with this, the government, I submit. And Canada doesn't enforce its own laws with regard to repackaging trade. And it's believed that Canada, with the CCP, is engaging in money laundering. So that's going on. We have this from Alexander Makuras, that Russia has taken a significant town, Orehov, in Ukraine, that could bring about a major collapse of the Ukraine front line. And we have this. President Trump has, from Promethean Update, has put a pause on his move to charge Canada with 50% tariffs. Well, I submit this, President Trump. If we have a foreign leader, Melanie Jolie, meeting with the Democratic Party, I suggest you might want to take a second look at putting tariffs on Canada. And what's going on with a foreign leader meeting with the U.S. political party? Is that legal? And we have this in Michigan, a Sheriff Durham, who is acting as a whistleblower for Michigan with regard to voter fraud, and has contacted the DOJ to give them information about illegals receiving driver's license and automatically being registered to vote and automatically being put in jury roles in Michigan. And he has provided confidential information to the DOJ. Way to go, Sheriff Denny. We have this from Stephen Gardner. So regarding, we saw recently in a small Spanish enclave, Ceuta, C-E-U-T-A, Ceuta, we saw them being swamped with 80,000 illegals from Africa. Most of them left, 2,000 stayed, and the small Ceuta population of 80,000 saw a dramatic increase in murders, rapes, and so on. Well, Ceuta, once again, is being invaded, and these are all military age males who are coming in. So we have another group of 3,500, according to intel, supposed to come into CETA soon, followed after that by another group from Africa, military age males, to invade Europe. So that's going on. And we are seeing, with regard to CETA, the Spanish government not doing anything. And we believe the Spanish government is now fully commie socialist. We have this from Tuesday TV.
Start your route to savings and service. Switch your car insurance to State Farm and save $740.
That the IRGC now threatens to hit Europe. It says it has ICBMs, long-range missiles, that could hit Bulgaria and Cyprus. So that's going on. And we have this. We have also in Iran. Now, we have multiple sources talking about President Trump using a back channel Iraq to President Barzani to contact the IRGC. Tulsi Gabbard set this back channel up in May, and we understand in the last 5 to 7 days, the U.S. government has used this back channel method, President Barzani from Iraq, to contact the leader of the IRGC, Valhidi, and offer billions of dollars in bribes to the IRGC to, of course, side with the U.S. This is a standard Sun Tzu Art of War strategy. Use every method you can to destroy your enemy without using your military. Way to go, President Trump. And we have this, and we're being told that Valhidi said no. So from Pepe Escobar, who Pepe puts forth the position that you can't bribe a Muslim, really? Well, we see something different here in the U.S. with tens of thousands of Muslims cheating and stealing money from the U.S. government, Medicare fraud, and so on. So I'm not really buying that. We have this, that neither Russia nor China will enforce Iran's nuclear development position. In other words, in 2026, neither Russia nor China will do anything to hamper Iran's going ahead and juicing up uranium to make a nuke. And we had 2 weeks ago, Iran making a public statement to the world that it already has nukes, which goes along with what I've been putting out for years. And we have this, that Russia and China have worked for years to separate Iran from the U.S. So it's good to know who are our adversaries. And we have the UAE, it's believed, is engaging in economic deals with Israel. And we have this, Pakistan General Munir. Pepe Escobar puts forth that President Trump calls General Munir every day. Now, it's been my position, questioning why Pakistan is a mediator when it's obvious. Pakistan is a player, in that Pakistan openly says it has 6 land routes that China uses to take in intel and weapons to Iran. And we see this. It's believed China is supporting Iran because China has an objective, and that is to get the U.S. military out of the Middle East so China can come in to control the Gulf states. And we have this. We have that, China's objective is to replace the U.S. influence in the Middle East. And we have that the UAE has cut trade and other ties to Iran following Iran's launching of 2 missiles toward UAE in the last 24 hours, both of which were short. And it's well known now that the UAE, about 4 days ago, gave Iran $3 billion worth of cash and 2 tons of gold. But what can we say about Iran and their so-called pristine handling of money? They accepted the cash and gold from UAE, then continued to hit UAE ships near the Strait of Hormuz, and then launched 2 missiles toward UAE. I submit the IRGC is not to be trusted. So we have that going on. We have from Al Jazeera English. The Prime Minister of Qatar gave a speech this morning in Egypt.
See this part of your prostate right here? I call it the prostate plug, and it's where 2 liters of peas stuck.
And it's obvious the Gulf states are not going to play ball with Iran. The Prime Minister of Qatar said he believes that the control over the Strait of Hormuz should be in line with international maritime law and the UN law of the sea. So it's obvious Gulf states, including Qatar and Egypt, are not going to accept Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz. And we have this. President Trump has opened, along with Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent, a global program to crush Iran's economy like one would crush a pop can. And they will use all avenues available to the U.S. Treasury, including cutting off money or freezing accounts, shutting down shell companies, and not doing business with nations who do business with Iran. This includes buying Iran oil. Well, this ought to be interesting. We know that China is the #1 buyer of Iran oil, and Xi will be in Washington, D.C. very soon. I wonder what President Trump will be talking about with Xi. So we'll see. And we have this, that August 20, Iran admits that they are seriously degraded economically by their inability to freely sell oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, some are saying that the U.S. blockade is not working. I submit it most likely is. And we have Scott Bessent will work to collapse the economy of Iran. And we know that the U.S. Was actively involved in crushing the economy of the Soviet Union, which led to the fall of the Soviet Union in the 1990s. So the U.S. Has plenty of financial tools it can use against Iran. The objective by the U.S. is to economically isolate Iran. So that's going on. And the U.S. also used the same technique to hit Venezuela and Cuba. So that's going on. We have this from Judge Napolitano. Russia Foreign Minister Lavrov says that, of course, Russia's objective is to defeat Ukraine and that Russia is fully aware of European involvement in assistance to Ukraine and intimating that Europe has become co-belligerents. So that's going on. We have this from Dialogue Works, who recently interviewed Pepe Escobar. The U.S. economy moves against Iran, and the Ayatollah number 2 has communicated somehow to Pakistan that about this back channel deal with Barzani and Valhidi, as I've explained. And we're hearing that the U.S. recently has changed their relationship with Pakistan. So that's going on. As I said, I've always put forth, I believe Pakistan is a player. We have this from Military Summary regarding Russia-Ukraine. Last night, Russia hit Kiev and Kharkiv and several small towns around Kiev for 7 hours using multiple types of missiles, including Zircons and Iskander, along with 200 drones, some of which were jet-powered. We haven't heard a full list yet of what Russia hit. So that's going on. We see Russia stepping up the intensity of its hits on Ukraine. And we have this from Times of India. Russia hit Ukraine and hit near Kiev a national police headquarters in the town of Zhytomyr Oblast, not a town, an oblast, like a state. 2 police were killed, 40 were injured, and Russia used jet-powered drones to hit this police location. And Kiev.
You're invited to join Phoenix Energy's next webinar, where you can.
We got a minute left. Darn it. Well, there was only a minute left, you guys, on that last part. So it was 25, and we had 22, 23 on there. And then we got a half-hour X2 report. We haven't played the X2 report in a while. Right, Gabe?
Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave. In this episode, 3,975 AN. Today's date is August 20th, 2026. And the title of the episode is EU Panics, U.S. Moving in Different Direction. Trump makes a move to shift away from the central bank. Now, you know, it's very interesting. If you're like me and you're getting to that age where your body just feels sluggish and off all the time, then listen up. Because Dr. Josh explains that most of the time, this is caused by clogged liver, but it's supposed to. So if you're ready to unclog your myultraliver.com/X20 for a limited time. But this special offer is no longer heading in the direction that they want the United States to head in. And they're realizing that without the United States, their entire plan goes up in smoke. And Trump, he's also confirming the direction of the United States. He's letting the world, he's letting the central bankers know that we are moving away from the central bank system, from the fiat currency. We're moving away from the Federal Reserve note, and we're creating our own system. We're building our own payment system outside of the central bank system. We're backing the dollar, not the Federal Reserve note, the dollar with stablecoin. We're going to use Bitcoin to actually make it desirable. Think about that. And eventually, Trump will be showing the world that we have gold. All of this is being done because he's basically removing what they put into place going all the way back to 1913. The entire deep state central bank agenda is falling apart right in front of their eyes. And Trump, he needs to decentralize the oil, and that's exactly what he's doing out in the Middle East. Because with decentralized oil, you're going to see energy become very, very affordable, which means the United States will be able to produce. And when you have a nation that is producing, that means income is coming in. With income coming in, what does that mean? It means the country thrives. Does this make it easier to pay off the debt? Absolutely. And I think Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has already said that, because people asked him about the $40 trillion worth of debt. He says, what we need to do is we need to produce. And that's exactly what needs to happen. Because again, without producing, what are you doing? You need to borrow more and more money. Producing creates wealth. Wealth can be used to pay off the debt. Plus, I do believe that most of the debt that we see today was because of the rebellion against the United States of America. And this was all created via fraud. So I do believe in the end, what we're going to see is we're going to see the amount of debt that's going to shrink by quite a bit. And we're not going to have to pay off as much as they're reporting right now. Because once again, once we have control over the system, once we expose what has been going on, it's going to make it that much easier. But when you look at the ECB, Christine Lagarde is head of the European Central Bank. Remember, she was the head of the IMF. She now is admitting that the United States is not in line with what Europe is doing, with what the World Economic Forum wanted, what the central bankers wanted. And the United States has dismantled global trade around the world. And basically, the European Union was heading in the direction of the Green New Scam, the central bank agenda, to shift everything to China. And she explained that the post-war economic model that spurred European growth was founded on 3 pillars. The first was expansion of global trade. The second was the energy supply and the manufacturing infrastructure built around it. The third was a stable, rules-based international order protected by the U.S., which enabled European firms to concentrate on the efficiency of their investments and supply chains to become more integrated without concerns of sovereignty and self-sufficiency. Lagarde said that the global order that Europe relied on is no longer the case, citing geopolitical tensions and the reliance on critical supplies. The analysis is clear. For decades, European elites assumed that the U.S. would remain steady and unwavering participant in the global order. They criticized American political values while relying on American consumers, American innovation, American military might. They never addressed the situation where the U.S. would simply exit the post-war arrangement. And that's exactly what Trump is doing. He's resetting the global order. And now Europe is no longer going to be funded by the United States, no longer protected by the United States, which means they cannot follow through on their agenda to move towards the Great Reset. Because if the United States is going in a completely and utterly different direction where the United States is going to produce, restore manufacturing, build energy plants, well, this is not going to work out too well for Europe. Remember, this wasn't their plan. Trump just pretty much shut this all down. And Europe has a major, major problem. Michael Arup put this out and said, can somebody please explain the logic behind lifelong welfare in countries with so many open jobs? Any job should be better than welfare. Investing in upskilling should be better than paying people to do nothing for life. What am I missing? So when you look at it, the UK has about 707,000 job vacancies. Germany, 653,000. And when you start to look at this, you could say, why is this? Because you have to remember that the central bankers, what did they want? They wanted people on universal basic income, pretty much. They didn't want people working because, again, the jobs were going to be shifted out of these countries and into China. So you really don't need workers. And the whole idea that they had to bring in illegals into the country to fill the gap, it was a gigantic lie. Peter Sang-on, PhD, put this out and said, across the EU, youth employment is 15.5% and millions are paid to sit on the couch for life. Yet they import millions of illiterate third worlders for a supposed labor shortage. Think about that for a second. Think about what they were actually doing in these countries. And think about the United States, for example, because once again, when you have a central bank system and the value of the currency continually declines, you have to ship manufacturing out of this country to other countries where you're going to use slave labor. You also have to bring in slave labor for those certain companies and tasks that have to be done in the United States. So you don't want to pay the American worker a higher wage when the currency is continually declining. What you want to do is you want to bring in slave labor. And that's exactly what they did. Why do you think they brought in the illegals to work on the farms? Why do you think they had children in labor camps? Because, again, when their system breaks down, you need cheaper and cheaper and cheaper labor. Why do you think they have the H-1B? Because, again, you had to bring in foreign workers to work in this country. The American worker was asking too much. But if you're a foreign worker from another country, well, you'll accept the lower salary because your living standards are very, very different. Hanny Gerga says, this may be one of the most important H-1B arguments I've heard. MIT economist and Nobel laureate Darren Acemoglu, himself a former H-1B immigrant, says American reliance on skilled immigration has created a dangerous incentive. Instead of fixing American education and developing American talent, elites can simply import the skills they need. His point is devastating. America has millions of kids struggling academically, while we're constantly told employers must recruit overseas because Americans don't have the necessary skills. He says, we've effectively given up on the education of Americans because skill gaps can be filled by importing workers. Think about the incentive. Why spend 15 years fixing K through 12 education? Why build serious STEM pipelines? Why train Americans? Why force companies to invest in entry-level workers? Just import someone already trained. Skilled immigration should supplement American talent, not become an excuse for failing to develop it. And think about it. The American worker is going to ask for a lot more money than a foreign worker. That's really the main part of this that they're missing, is that it's cheaper labor. And they don't have to invest, of course, into training the American worker. It's much easier to get the foreign worker at a cheaper price to work. Because when the system breaks down, and this is the central bank system, you need cheaper and cheaper labor. And that's exactly what we've been seeing in this country. First, when we came off the gold standard, they had to push the manufacturers out of this country because, again, if all the manufacturers were in this country and energy prices were going up, the value of the currency was declining, everything would be way, way too expensive. People would start to notice there's something wrong with the system. As they moved the manufacturers out of the country, eventually what would happen is you had to bring in cheap labor into this country because you have certain industries within the country that you can't move out of this country, like farming and insurance and other things. So what do? Well, you need to bring those people into this country, and that's exactly what they did. You have to remember the central bank system does not work long term. The central bank system breaks down over time, and they always have to reset it. We've seen this in history time and time again. And think about what Trump is doing. We know that the deep state players, they've been laundering the money from the central bank system because that's the cause of all of this. Trump now is going to be taking the money from Gavin Newsom's failed high-speed rail money laundering project and is going to use it to build America high-speed rail project. And we know the California project was never going to be built. So we might as well take the money and use it to actually build a high-speed train for America. And I think people are going to be very, very surprised on how fast this is built compared to California. And that's going to tell everyone exactly what they need to know. I mean, it's going to be completely clear when people see this. Now, the other thing that we could see is that Trump now is decentralizing the oil in Iran. And yes, when you go up against a central bank system who doesn't want to give up control, when you go up against their system, yes, they're going to fight back with everything they have. They're not just going to say, hey, by the way, oh, wait, you want me to decentralize? Okay, we'll just let you. Oh, you want to get rid of the Federal Reserve? We'll just let you. Oh, you want to get rid of the Federal Reserve note? Oh, we'll just let you. Now, did you know a new survey found that 1 in 3 Americans feel most self-conscious about their body at the beach more than anywhere else? Summer is here. The trips, the pool days, the photos are already happening. And if you've been eating better, cutting back, the thing that people don't realize is that the amount that he's taking out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, we're also bringing in oil, and it's kind of countering all of this. And actually what's going to happen as energy prices come way, way down after all this is said and done, he's going to be able to fill this up very, very quickly. Latinx adjacent Dr. PhD put this out and said, many people falsely claim that the EIA oil report last week was due to one-time import imbalance. But again, oil inventories in the U.S. surged last week and added 4.4 million barrels. So basically, yes, is there oil coming out of the SPR? Yes. Are we also bringing in oil into this country? Absolutely. So out of the SPR, we used 5.3 million barrels, but we also brought in 4.4 million barrels. So we're losing some out of the SPR, but not as much as everyone believes. So there is an offset to all of this. And I do believe when all's said and done, what we're going to see is we're going to see Trump, he's going to be able to fill up the SPR at lightning speed because the oil is going to be so cheap. And everything that we're witnessing out in Iran really has to do with oil, decentralizing oil. And Karma Patriot put this out and explains and looks at all of Trump's tweets from the past, from 2014, 2013, 2020, 2018, 2019, you name it, 2012, even go all the way back to 2012. And everything has to do with oil. This is what she says. Everything Trump is doing right now points to one goal. America becomes the undisputed king of oil and energy. Removing Iran's control of the Strait of Hormuz, the Iran conflict, rebrand of the Gulf of America, Venezuela, Cuba. None of these were ever just about whatever narrative mainstream media was trying to sell. It's always been about the oil. These first 2 years of Trump 47 have been cutting the puppet master strings and freeing up the waterways for oil. The next 2 years will be about building on those wins domestically, growing the economy, fast-tracking manufacturing, passing important legislation, securing elections, and ushering in the golden age. As the saying goes, oil is the lifeblood of modern civilization. What runs the world? Oil. Always has, always will. And he's been saying this going all the way back to 2012. He's never, ever even changed his narrative. And that should tell you everything you need to know. And think about what else Trump is doing. You have to remember, because everything that he's doing is not just, hey, we just want cheaper oil prices. What this is all about is shutting down the slave labor in the United States. And yes, you are the slave labor for the rest of the world. Because you work hard every single day, and the value of the currency continually declines, that money is sent around the world. So they've been using the United States to basically prop up the rest of the world. And Trump let everyone know those days are over. Nick Sorter put this out and said, President Trump is fed up with the American taxpayers subsidizing a laundry list of countries while we pay ridiculous interest rates, courtesy of the Fed. 60-plus countries live off American business while paying a fraction of our interest rates. Switzerland sits at 0.5%. We pay 3.5% plus. In the old days, we would used to pay the lowest interest rate no matter how we were doing, because we sort of generate the whole world. I have the absolute right to cut off all business with a country like Switzerland, like any. So why are they prime if I can cut off the business and they are no longer functional, and yet they consider to be like an elite country?
Yeah, I thought it was Wacky Wednesday is actually tonight. It's Thursday. Wait, I've been looking at it. I haven't gotten it yet.
And I don't want to single them out because there are 60 countries like that. They live off the United States. So why are we paying higher interest rates than them? Because once again, we are the slave labor of the world. This is why it's getting tougher and tougher for people to make ends meet, because they've been using the people for a very, very long time. And what's very interesting is Trump now is pointing out that the Fed board is completely and utterly political. Not Warsh, but the rest of the Fed board, saying that they're the ones who are keeping the rates higher. And he's letting everyone know the people that put these people in there are Obama, Biden, and these people must be removed. And I think what people are going to see in the long run is that those individuals who are working with the deep state central bankers who are told to keep the interest rates high, Trump now is working with the Treasury, taking the ability to lower and raise rates, and I think that's being shifted over to the Treasury. So yes, will the Fed now lower rates? I do believe so. But in the future, and I think that future is coming very, very quickly, I do believe the Fed, as he weans us off the Federal Reserve, it's going to be shifting to the Treasury, and the Treasury will be making that decision. Because you have to remember, what is the mandate of the Federal Reserve? The mandate of the Federal Reserve is to keep everyone fully employed, and the mandate is to what? Keep prices steady. That's it. That's their mandate. Trump now is shifting everything away from the central bank system. And he let everyone know that the central bank system will never, ever be allowed to issue a central bank digital currency. Nick Sorter put this out and said, Trump doubles down on his executive order banning the U.S. government from creating a central bank digital currency. Great news, the federal government already has too much power over our money. A central bank digital currency would be very dangerous. Now, first of all, it's not the U.S. government. A central bank digital currency would come from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a private corporation. It's not part of the United States government. So he's actually banning the Federal Reserve, a private corporation that creates the currency today. That's why it says Federal Reserve note on top. It's their currency. We borrow it. And they track their money. They have a registry, and they need to know where their money is, how much you make, and how much you're paying. And Trump is saying that the Federal Reserve, they are no longer going to be allowed to ever create a central bank digital currency. He's making it very, very clear. Why is that? Because everything is moving away from the central bank. Remember, stablecoin, Bitcoin, not the same as a central bank digital currency. Central bank digital currency is created by the central bank. No, there's no work involved. There's no limit on how much you can create. You could just say, I want $1 trillion today. Boom, it appears. See, Bitcoin is a little bit different. You have to mine it. It takes a lot of energy to mine it, just like gold.
8 minutes.
Same exact thing. And the central bank would control it. Actually, in the end, what they really wanted is they wanted complete and utter control. They didn't want banks. Banks would be obsolete. Everything would go through the central bank system, and they'd be able to shut people's accounts down because it's centralized. They're the controllers of it. Stablecoin, Bitcoin, that is decentralized, and the central bank has no say in it whatsoever. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, crypto is not a threat to the dollar. In fact, stablecoins can reinforce dollar supremacy. Digital assets are one of the most important phenomena in the world right now, yet they have been ignored by national governments for far too long. This administration is committed to establishing the United States as a hub for digital asset innovation, and the Genius Act moves us one step closer to that goal. James E. Thorne says, all signal, no noise. Secretary Bessent, stablecoins reinforce U.S. dollar supremacy. Wall Street is chasing parabolic charts in AI. They always buy high and sell low. Wall Street is not positioned for what is coming next. What is coming next? Well, Trump let us know, and Bitcoin Magazine put this out, is will the United States government be buying Bitcoin? He says certainly it's been talked about. It's take a lot of pressure off the dollar. It's been very, very good for the dollar. And I think if you come in with recommendations, I would certainly listen. So accumulating Bitcoin, he says, takes the pressure off the dollar. So what does that really mean? Well, Bitcoin has a fixed supply and no issuer. So it can serve as a long-term store of value or diversification tool for sovereign reserves, similar to gold. If foreign countries or institutions hold more Bitcoin instead of piling exclusively into dollars and treasuries, it reduces excess global demand for US dollar. That can relieve upward pressure on the dollar's value, which in turn helps US exporters and manufacturers by making American goods more competitive. Bitcoin growth provides an alternative hard asset while the dollar remains the primary medium of exchange, unit of account, and settlement currency. A U.S. strategic holding of Bitcoin positions America to benefit from any appreciation without signaling a loss of faith in the dollar itself. Genius Act strengthens the dollar transactional network effect. A Bitcoin reserve then acts as a complementary hard asset buffer. Role of the Clarity Act. It clarifies jurisdiction between the SEC and the CFTC, sets rules for digital commodity exchanges brokers, defines mature blockchains, and provides clear pathways for token classification and institutional participation. So what would the Clarity Act do? Encourage more U.S.-based institutional adoption, custody, and innovation in Bitcoin and other digital assets. Keep crypto activity and talent onshore rather than driving it overseas. Reduce regulatory uncertainty that would otherwise discourage a large-scale holding or market development. Together, the two acts create a dual-track system. Genius locks in the dollar-centric stablecoins, boosting U.S. dollar demand, while Clarity gives Bitcoin and the broader crypto market a predictable U.S. rulebook. This environment makes it politically and practically easier for the U.S. to accumulate and hold Bitcoin as a strategic asset without undermining dollar primacy. The result is a stronger, more resilient dollar ecosystem in which Bitcoin absorbs some of the reserve assets and scarcity pressure that would otherwise fall entirely on the greenback. So Trump, he's building the framework right now to support the dollar, not the Federal Reserve note, the dollar. This is how he's going to be able to separate the country from the Federal Reserve, because eventually we'll be shifting back to a U.S. dollar. If you notice, they don't say the Federal Reserve note. We're doing this to support the Federal Reserve note. We're doing this to support the U.S. dollar. There are two different currencies, the U.S. dollar and the Federal Reserve note. We use the Federal Reserve note today. That's why when you take out your pieces of paper, on top it says Federal Reserve note. The owner of that is the Federal Reserve, not the U.S. government. They loan us that money, and you have to pay it back. They actually own you. They track you, and they want their payments from you. It's almost like you going into the bank and saying, listen, I want a $10,000 loan. They loan you $10,000. Is that your money? No, it's not. Do they track that money? Yes. Do they want payment for that money? Yes. If you do not pay that loan and you're delinquent, do they take things from you? Of course they do. It's a loan sharking operation. This is what the Federal Reserve is doing with the entire country. Trump is creating a system, an income system, where the money that's being brought in via tariffs, energy, technology, it's not borrowed. It's money that's already in circulation. So just like a company who sells a product, they bring in money for that product. Those people that want to sell a product in this country, they're paying a fee. We collect that fee. That's income. It doesn't cause inflation. That income can be used to pay for the federal government, and it can be used to pay for the infrastructure, the military, you name it, which means we don't need the Federal Reserve because we have another source of income. We don't need to borrow to keep everything operational. So if we're bringing in income, how does that change everything? Well, that means people don't have to pay taxes, which means it puts a lot more money back into people's pocket. which means we don't need the Federal Reserve. We don't need their system anymore. This is why slowly but surely Trump is backing the new system. He's going to stabilize the dollar. The Treasury is going to buy back the Treasuries to control the interest rate. He's creating a new payment system. So everything that he's putting into place right now, he's building a parallel competitive system that matches the Federal Reserve, but is 1,000 times better because it's an income producing machine, not a debt producing machine. It's very, very different. And this is why he's putting all these things into place. Because you have to remember, going back to 1971, when we came off the gold standard, the central bank, they created a new system. It was the oil system. And they shifted everyone from the gold system to the oil system. But again, the central bank of the deep state players, they don't care if people lose their job, people lose their wealth. They don't care if the economy falls apart, as long as they get what they want. Trump, he's doing the opposite. He doesn't want anyone to lose their wealth. He doesn't want the economy to implode. He doesn't want the US dollar / Federal Reserve note to crash. Remember, he wants to make this as smooth as possible. So when you're making a move from one system to another, you make sure you have a new system that is completely and utterly operational and mimics the old system. But the new system is income-based. That's the big difference. And you basically prop up the new system to make sure that it's stable. That's why he's using Bitcoin. That's why he's using stablecoin. That's why he needs the Genius Act. That's why he needs the Clarity Act, because this is all part of the new system. So in the end, we're going to see the transition. Actually, it's already started. Eventually, you're going to see the full transition, and most people won't even recognize that it's happening. You know what they will recognize? That their buying power is coming back. They won't. Some people might not even know why. And as things go on, people start to realize, why are things getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper? No, what that really means is your value of your currency is returning to you. It's not that the products are changing. It means the currency is changing, and the value of it is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. He'll be reversing everything the deep state, the central banks have done. And this will be the golden age. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.
All right, that's today's extra report. I cleared off that message thing. Come on. There's Chico. We got another Fetterman. 9 minutes. Lucy. Ah.
My respect has grown for Senator. I'm not saying Senator John Fetterman is going to become a Republican by any means, or a right-wing independent, or anything like that of the such, but I will say that Senator John Fetterman definitely has surprised me and impressed me as time goes on. Let me know what you guys think about that, and how do you feel about Senator John Fetterman down below in the comments. Do you think he's become a better man? Let me know down below. With that being said, smash the like button, hit subscribe, share these videos. I'm not feeling the greatest, so that's why I'm not showing my face at the moment, but I will be back very soon for all the positive comments and everything like that. It really makes my day, and I love you guys, all 226,000 of you. It's probably more now, because like I said, we are really growing super fast. But let's get into this video. Let's go. Let me know if my audio sounds good on your end as well.
Here's this candidate for DSA. She's a DSA congressional candidate in Colorado. This person has made excuses for 9/11, declined to call the Boulder fire bombing against Jews anti-Semitic. This is not just a New York problem.
Yeah, I mean, do people remember when somebody literally firebombed a group of Jews outside, and a person died, and now she refused to describe that as even anti-Semitic? How crazy that is. That's what I've been maintaining, that the left parts of my party has become anti-Israel and now essentially Jew as well too. Now when someone's firebombing people, you can't even criticize or call people out that this person is running for Congress and could possibly join, the new class, just like the ones in the New York City, the people that describe America as a effing an effing disgrace and would wipe her face with the flag and all those awful things that they've said. That's what I'm saying is that call this out. And now I have a lot of Democrats that are great Democrats, and now they have views that are compatible, but they're not radical kinds of things. But there's a significant part of our party that's getting taken over with these extreme views. Whether it's P. Hustle in Maine, or the new squad coming in out of New York City, or the guy in Colorado. That's the direction that our party's going.
Indeed. I mean, I still can't believe that only 13 House Democrats signed on to Pride in the United States, Capitalism, and Strong Borders. They called it a promise to America. Just 13. There's 199 House Democrats that did not. Does that surprise you?
What I'm saying is, like, being patriotic now is becoming, partisan right now. You look at the kinds of polls right now. I think 18% of Democrats were intensely proud to be American or proud of the country, and that's truly absurd. You don't have to agree with everyone that's in the White House or some other things. I will always remain intensely proud of our nation and where we are. We are the good guys, in the fight. It's not Iran, it's not Hamas, it's not Hezbollah or these other kinds of countries too. So for me, it's very, very sad. Now, even just being patriotic now has become a partisan thing.
It is. Final question for you. You asked, where are the other Senate Democrats joining you in calling this out? And you found one. Senator Alyssa Slotkin came out calling for new leadership, seeming to call out the socialist wing of the party. She's more of a moderate Democrat. So you have one colleague there who's standing with you. Do you think others will come on board?
Well, I'm not really super familiar with what her views are, but I'll be the one Democrat, at least in the caucus, that will call out P. Hustle with a Nazi tattoo, or that roughed up his former girlfriends, or that spent a decade on the Kick social media, or I'll actually call out some of these people in the New York that extreme these kinds of views that they want to abolish the ICE or police or prisons, or and actually, she was the lead of the organization that called for the end of Western civilization. And these aren't smears from me. That's just describing the things just recently, just in 2024. These were these kind of views. And people in New York in that district decided that's the best version of what we want to project, in America. Is truly absurd. It's astonishing. I'm not necessarily surprised, though. That's the direction, and I would expect that's going to continue to accelerate.
Appreciate the common sense, as always. Senator John Fetterman, thank you.
Hey,
be sure to like and subscribe for all the
two on in today. Hey, we got that one lady doing videos I was telling you about yesterday. On 9 minutes.
By the reporting that blew his cover wide open, the quiet hand behind the most famous political brand in progressive America. And now that hand is gone. And the question that should keep her team up at night is not why he left. It is what leaves with him. Because the man who just broke up with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the one person alive who knows the whole machine and how it actually works. So just imagine this with me. It is the early 2010s at Boston University, and a quiet, red, bearded economics student meets a girl in one of those campus conversations that goes nowhere for most people and everywhere for a few. His name is Riley Roberts. Hers is Alexandria. He is the type who stays in the background by instinct, a web developer's temperament. comfortable behind the screens, allergic to microphones. She's the opposite, magnetic, verbal, built for the stage. She just hasn't found it yet. They graduate. Life gets unglamorous. She ends up back in the Bronx mixing drinks and waiting tables as her family fights through hard years. And Riley is there through all of it. The boyfriend nobody in politics has ever heard of, because there is no politics yet. Then in 2018, something happens. A 28-year-old bartender takes down one of the most powerful Democrats in Congress in the biggest primary upset in a generation. And overnight, the girl from Boston University becomes the most talked about politician in America, not named Trump. Cameras follow her everywhere. Magazine covers, documentaries, 60-second clips that reach 10 million people before lunch. And in the corner of all that footage, occasionally, accidentally, there is a red-bearded man carrying a backpack, saying nothing. The internet notices him the way you notice wallpaper. Nobody asks the obvious question. If she is the voice of the movement, who is the guy the voice goes home to every night, and what exactly does he do all day? It took years for that answer to leak out, and when it did, it changed how you have to read everything about her operation. And what he did this week changes it all over again, because the answer, when it finally surfaced, was not boyfriend. The reporting that tore the lid off her office describes something closer to a shadow chief of staff. Riley Roberts, the man with no title, no election certificate, and no press availability, was running her entire operation. That was the story. Gatekeeping access, shaping decisions, sitting inside the machinery of a congressional office and a national movement that voters never elected him to touch. And the paper trail ran older than the fame. Go back to the first campaign filings, and his name is already there. Payments from the campaign to Riley Roberts for marketing work back when the operation was a folding table and a dream. He was never staff, exactly. He was never volunteer, exactly. He was the constant, the one presence that predates the movement, the brand, the office, all of it. Now hold that picture next to the brand itself. AOC's whole political identity is anti-establishment transparency. The congresswoman who live streams her way through Washington, who tells you how the sausage gets made, who built 12 million followers on the promise that with her, unlike the others, what you see is what you get. What you saw was her. What you got behind the curtain was a man nobody could question, nobody could fire or vote against. Couples build things together, and there's nothing wrong with that. But she sold the public a solo act, and the reporting revealed a duet where one performer was invisible. That was the scandal the first time around. This week produced the sequel nobody saw coming, because the invisible half of the duet just quit the show. The engagement is off. The fiance who was supposed to become the husband broke it off with her. And the news lands on two levels at once. The tabloid level writes itself. The most famous progressive in America, the woman who turned her own life into content for a decade, just got dumped. And for once, the story is running without her narration. But the tabloid level is the shallow end. Go one level down, and this is an operational earthquake. Remember what the reporting established. This was not a partner who cheered from the audience. This was the man running the operation, the gatekeeper, the fixer, the institutional memory of everything from the bartender years to the national stage. Organizations do not lose a person like that the way they lose a scheduler. Every relationship he managed, every decision quietly shaped, every process that lived in his head instead of in a manual, all of that walks out the door with him. Her office now faces the question every empire with a shadow operator eventually faces. Who actually knows how this thing runs? And notice the silence. The congresswoman who narrates everything, who turns grocery shopping into a live, her 12 million followers, no cheerful video about this transition. The most transparent politician in America goes quiet at the exact moments transparency would cost her something. It is the tell that has followed her through every uncomfortable story, and it is flashing now, because the timing of this breakup could not possibly be worse.
You've got enough on your plate. Let Ferrellgas take care of your propane. Get your quote today.
You called me the best out machine, the cleaner, the belt collector.
Think about where AOC is standing at this exact moment. She is mid-rebrand, the biggest and riskiest of her career. She went on national television and called the woke era the era that made her crazy. 4 words that split her own movement down the middle and had allies like Glenn Greenwald torching her within the week. Half her base thinks she is maturing into a national figure. The other half thinks she's auditioning for donors by burning the costume she wore on the way up. That fighting is still raging, and a politician only survives a rebrand with a disciplined operation, message control, loyalty, no leaks, no distractions. So count what just happened to the operation. The man who ran it is gone. The rebrand is contested. The movement is split. And the one person who watched every version of Alexandria now owes her nothing. Worry her team, and it has nothing to do with heartbreak. Riley Roberts spent as the most informed man in progressive politics, present for every strategy call history while asked about it, every gap between the live stream and the reality. He never wanted attention. Everyone agrees on that. But wanting nothing is a form of power too, because a man who wants nothing cannot be managed. And Washington has no leverage over someone who just proved he can walk away from its brightest star. Every reporter who covers her now knows exactly whose phone number is worth having. He does not have to say a word for the pressure to change. His silence used to protect her. Now it just sits there, unaccounted for, like the operation's master key in an ex's pocket. And the movement's problem is bigger than one breakup, because the same month keeps producing the same lesson about the same people. The socialists' anti-establishment brands keep turning out to have establishment architecture underneath. Bernie preaches against corrupt money while his campaign wires donations to the family charity. Seattle's new socialist mayor performs scarcity while her parents paid the bills. Mamdani played the struggling renter with a family portfolio across 3 continents. And AOC, the movement's crown jewel, sold radical transparency while an unelected, unaccountable partner ran her entire operation from inside her own home until the day he decided he was done. None of these people invented political image making. What they invented is a politics whose entire product is authenticity, which means every one of these reveals is not a side story about their personal lives. It is a product recall. So let's bring it full circle. A quiet man meets a loud woman at a Boston University, and for 15 years, he does the thing no one else in her world can do. He runs the machine without ever being seen. The bartender becomes the icon. The boyfriend becomes the fiance. The fiance becomes the shadow operator, and the operation becomes the most powerful personal brand in left-wing politics. All of it resting on one invisible load-bearing man. This week, the load-bearing man broke up with her and walked out. Here's the bottom line. AOC will survive the heartbreak. Everyone does. What she cannot get back is the arrangement, because you only get one person in a lifetime who runs your empire for free, wants no credit, keeps every secret out of love. That man is now an ex with a decade of receipts and no reason left to guard him. The woman who built her career on showing you everything now has to hope the one person who actually saw everything stays quiet. Her movement is split. Her rebrand is on fire. Her operator is gone. And for the first time since the folding table days, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is running the machine alone. And everyone who matters in her world knows it.
Liberal Abdul El Sayed is too.
Yeah, she's breaking down all the senators, you guys. I'm going to follow her on each one, try to catch up on that. That's good stuff there. I got 2 10-minute ones, a couple shorts. So that will put us in a little bit about the 3-hour mark. So try to get a couple more in. We got DJ 10 minutes, Flying Eagle. Well, let's play this one first. This one's 10 minutes. Then we'll get to Doug.
Some bad players out there, but this was all by design, and NATO's been completely made irrelevant one more time.
Lord.
dismantling the global cabal structure. That's what we've been watching for 10 years. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to run you through a few things, Ricardo. You'll get the gist of this in a moment. If you can be brief on each of these, because I got like 6 or 7 points to have you comment on. Describe what we've accomplished. What is the relationship, and let's say the White Hat's good against the, describe the relationship and current status of the following. We'll begin with the media. What have we accomplished? What is the relationship and status of media today as opposed to, say, 10 or 15 years ago?
Media is under White Hat control. They are running now.
I actually got 3 of them. I forgot to do that 10-minute Switzerland guy. So I got 3 10-minute ones.
Narratives to advance the White Hat narrative that are allowing the Black Hat narratives to continue in order to demonstrate to the people what was intended. That's it.
Thank you. Let's move on to the Federal Reserve and the central bank. Might as well throw the IRS in there. They're all in there together. The Fed, the central bank, the IRS. Relationship changes, status. What's your take on that? The truth.
Once again, all those unlawful and unjust and immoral organizations have been under control for some time, and they have been used to transition the world intellectually from one place to another in terms of who controls the money and why and how, and what's going to be happening. And DJT has been progressively revealing the corruption of the individuals and the processes in all of those organizations, whether it's the Fed or the IRS and all the others, USAID and the rest. So it's that getting people accustomed to the idea that these corrupted organizations, A, they are corrupt, and B, they don't represent the good of the people, taken down. And they're being used actively to disassemble themselves in front of the people.
Thank you. To our viewers, this is the 40,000-foot view summary of where we've been and where we are and what we've accomplished on just some of the things I'm raising here with Ricardo. So very valuable. Let's tap your mind. Iran, same question. Relate status, what's been accomplished?
Sure, at the lower level, and this is the lower level, Iran was always under the control of the City of London, and it used that choke point of the Strait of Hormuz to allegedly control the flow of oil and the wealth of nations. It was a control mechanism, and that's the lowest level. If people think that's strategic, no, that's at the very lowest level. The naval warfare is always about choke points. Your own great naval theoretician, Alfred Thayer Mahan, wrote about this nearly over a century ago. And that's all it is. It's choke points. So what's happened there? That choke point has now been freed. It's no longer under Iranian control, which means it's no longer under the City of London's control, which means the economies that relied upon that 20% of seaborne oil that came through the strait are now no longer under the control of the City of London, but they are under the control of somebody else who's making sure that the oil gets through, that reserves are being built up. At the higher level, we're now talking the history of Iran and its role in the history of the planet, which involves portals, interdimensional travel, and
Teddy Roosevelt drank a gallon of coffee every single day. He was the most energetic president in American history.
certain bloodlines, let's say, that have been running the planet for many, many, many years, and everything in between.
Thank you very much. I took a note. You know, folks, Off-World with JMC, watch the episode. Dr. Sala and Colonel Lennox talked about that, Ricardo, about the portals in Iran in further detail, as well as time travel. We spent a lot of time on that. In fact, we'll run a clip in a minute. It dovetails perfectly into OPEC. Same question, relationship, accomplishments. What's happening with OPEC now that the world has changed?
Yeah, OPEC is no longer relevant. Again, it was a control mechanism, a fake control mechanism by City of London to continue to control oil, which controlled the strength of economies. And that was just made irrelevant. Once again, DJT, to use the analogy, he's a businessman. He's not a soldier. Soldiers like me like breaking things and then walking away. DJT just builds a better burger and opens up opposite competition and then draws the competition to him. Now, there's a little bit of argy-bargy in there, a little push and shove, we know that. But OPEC's now an irrelevance. It always was an irrelevance. It was a fake control mechanism, allegedly, this collection of the oil producers controlling, had nothing to do with them. They were just following orders. The Kabbalists controlled it all, and that is an indicator that the cabal no longer controls the system. Having said that, it's not going to be let loose just yet, because we need to reestablish new norms within the planet, which has been done by the DJT and the White Hats. New norms are being established, so the predictability of supply, a very simple thing like that, predictability of supply is there to underpin success of ventures and entrepreneurs and to reduce sovereign risk, which is critical.
Thank you. That takes us to, I just got 3 more. I could have added 300 to the list, but time is of the essence. NATO, same question. Where are we at? Relationship, what changes have been made?
Oh, this is superb. As a soldier, I love watching NATO get it in the neck. I was always concerned about NATO's quasi-sovereign state power that it wielded over Europe. Completely inappropriate, completely wrong. Militaries of all stripes should be subject to civilian law, and the civil law must be predicated on the will of the people. It's pretty straightforward stuff, but NATO was a power unto itself. Once again, an arm of the City of London. It created problems in order to fix problems. There's nothing new in that. Problem, reaction, solution. We're all familiar with the process. They create the problem and then they solve it. And they solve it by killing good men and women, by spending billions of dollars that don't need to be spent, creating weapon systems that were completely unnecessary. I'm not saying war's not necessary. It is. There's some bad players out there. But this was all by design. And NATO has been completely made irrelevant one more time.
Thank you. And that takes us to another irrelevant entity that seemed to have exited the script when it was front and center for some years, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab and company. Your analysis of that.
Yeah, Klaus and his mates were taken out some time ago, but they allowed the story to continue rolling. But they were replaced. I mean, you saw those glorious pictures of DJT elbowing his way through and being rude to the Europeans, and then at the World Economic Forum, basically telling them that their plan was not going to work and he had a better plan and it was going to implement it. And so that's gone. And even the idea that the World Economic Forum should run the world, as if that's the sole metric by which we measure success, the economy. How insane is that? But once again, it appealed to the avarice, the greed, the appetites of despicable people rather than actually anything else. And that is an irrelevant. It's gone. It's finished. And we are moving very quickly into the new world. Not the one they ordered, a better one.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Back to the WEF for a minute. We remember Trump recently, President Trump, I think it was a G7 meeting or something of the sort, where he walked in and said, "I'm the boss." Well, as we see with the WEF neutering, meet the new boss, not the same as the old boss. And thank goodness for that. That takes us to the United Nations. We'll just end it off there on your analysis. And folks, really, this has been very valuable, as I knew it would be, having Ricardo give us a soundbite of what's been done, where we're at on these important proxy entities that have made life miserable for all of us in the world. The United Nations, let's close out with that one, sir.
Okay, this is the burger analogy one more time. Donald Trump, what's he done? He's built the Board of Peace. Why? Because the UN couldn't do the job. It's as simple as that. And for those who don't know, the UN was essentially run by the OIC. That's not the International Olympic Committee. That's the IOC. The OIC is the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. They ran the UN. They, in their rules, it's right there for everybody to see that things like human rights are subject to Sharia law. And so you've got an Islamic organization that puts Sharia law above everything else, running the United Nations, that is now allowed to be, it's withered on the vine. And the glorious part where DJT ceased to fund it, and they're going broke. My God, all these dirtbags from third world countries that think that they can direct the planet, they're out of a job. They've got to go back to their grass huts and mud huts and eke out a living and leave us alone. And the Board of Peace has now picked up all those responsibilities and is delivering peace where the UN failed to do so for its entire existence.
All right.
We are at war, and we must.
That's how it ended. He doesn't say much after he comes back. So we got two. We're going to play Derek 10 and then finish with one guy has a big 10-minute one. I think Lucy said.
The Bill of Rights and Federalist Papers number 10 and number 14, which said democracies are dangerous, James Madison and Alexander Hamilton wrote in our foundation that they believe that presidents should have unlimited terms, meaning that the people wanted to vote them in,
guys think of that?
vote them in. Man,
That's
our founding father. Remember, liberals, the Constitution. President Trump's a threat to the Constitution. The threat to the Constitution. The father of the Constitution, the man who drafted it, words, terminology, structure, everything. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1 of the United States Constitution doesn't say anything about term limits.
Oh.
So the Congress in 1951 violated the Constitution by putting term limits on the president. They called it a ratification and an amendment of the Constitution, the 22nd Amendment. Now, why did they put term limits on the president, though, and not term limits on themselves? Then that's when you take my timeline that you've heard me talk about. I have a timeline from 1941 to 2016. And when you look at all the actions of what took place during that time period, you'll see where the deep state, the swamp, their quote-unquote democracy that they established for themselves and not for you, we the people, you'll see it clear as a bell. 1941, War Powers Act. After 1951, that Congress and after Lyndon Johnson and all that establishment of their quote-unquote democracy, when the CIA took over and the FBI and the judicial branch, and they started doing all these things that were not in the order of which our foundation established, the legislative branch, executive branch, judicial branch, all in that order. Legislation branch, legislative and executive, we vote them in. The judicial branch, the president that we voted in, when a judge is up to be replaced, that president that we voted in nominates that judge, and the Senate of the legislative branch confirms that. That ain't been going on in the last 70 years. That timeline is so important. In 1973, the deep state, they hung themselves. They damned themselves. See, they never dreamt that we, a secret military, and the generals, the admirals, etc., massive team of people, they never dreamt we would take this back over. See, they actually hung themselves in 1973. They tried to put limitations on the president by what he could do with the military. So they did what? They amended the War Powers Act of 41 and 42 and the War Powers Act of 73 and called it the War Powers Resolution, where a president must declare a national emergency. Well, guess who did what through the years? From 1979 to 2016, every president did what? They would invoke a national emergency and they left it open. They never resolved it. They never terminated it. They left all these executive orders with national emergencies open. That's why you heard President Trump say, I've ended 8 wars in 8 months. Guess where they were? Executive orders, national emergencies. Congress abused their own powers. Congress, that Constitution, they abused their own powers. They used subversion, manipulation, and gaslighting, tricked the people, got the people thinking and saying the word Constitution, don't know anything about it. Definitely don't, you never hear a liberal talk about the Declaration of Independence whatsoever, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations, when it becomes destructive of these ends, and it's the right of the people to alter or abolish it, to overthrow such government, to reset it. See, so the Constitution is not as important as the Declaration. The Declaration came before that. The Constitution's only good when that framework is keeping those representatives who represent us in check. Well, when the people ain't doing that, and the people don't even know the three branches of government, when the people don't even know the simple core values, the simple basic structure that my new book's going to be about, when you don't even know the simple basic functions and operations of your government, which should still be small, but still, when you don't even know that, you don't know that about the military, what the hell are you? You're just existing. You're an occupier. You're an oxygen occupier. That's all you are. You're not an American. You're not a citizen. You're not a civilian. You're just an oxygen occupier. You're just existing. You're not even living. You're just existing, and you're hoping on a prayer. You're wishing on a prayer. You're not living. You're not walking. You're not being commanded. You're not a commander. You're not whatever it is. You don't have a foundation. No wonder Americans look the way they look. Because you have no foundation, but you have no knowledge of the foundation. You have no knowledge of the origin, no knowledge of the history.
4 minutes.
Then you only know how to make it applicable because you have no knowledge of it.
One. That's both.
The Declaration comes before, but when a long train of abuses. So that's for people who can identify, Congress, you put term limits on the president, violation of Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1 of the United States Constitution. 1973, you try to put limitations on the president with the military, a commander-in-chief. You see he has to declare national emergency. Well, then guess what all these presidents did through the years? Declare national emergencies. So you had the military in one ear and you had the Congress in another. And it was blah, blah, blah. And you know why it was blah, blah, blah? Because you, the people, also were focusing on all this crap that don't matter. How big your house is, how much land you got, what your car looks like, your makeup, your eyebrows, your hairdo, and all this other stuff. Focusing on the wrong stuff. Things that don't matter, things that are temporary. The Bible tells you to not be of the world. And a lot of you, boy, y'all are nothing but the world. You look like the world, you act like the world, you talk like the world, and you are the world. Now, you can have nice things, there's no doubt. But guess what? I walk the walk. I know what I'm fighting for. I have a foundation. I have an origin and a history. And my lineage dates back to that and pre that. Native American, and I date back to the Revolutionary War. Every one of my family have fought in every single war, all the way back. Documented, baby. Got it. So, what was Congress doing putting term limits on the president, but not themselves? 1. 2, they put limitations on the president with the military in 1973. And that's what's biting them in the ass right now. President Trump has taken the War Powers Act of 1973, which is Chapter 33 of Title 50, which is where 1550 is located, and using that against them, which is perfect. You use all of this crap that they try to perverse and subvert to the public and use it against them. That's why you ain't heard many of them saying you can't do that. Oh, well, yeah, you can. But you ain't heard many saying that because they can't quote the laws. They don't know the laws. All right. And they don't want to quote some of them because they know that they went and passed this. They're people that kept their little charades going all these years. Exposed, baby. So see, you go back to quote unquote Joe for the target audience. You think the target audience, I'm like, okay, so in 2017 to 2021, January 2021, for what the target audience thought was President Trump's first term, every single Title 10 and Title 32 order that's in operation right now is from back there. So if Joe Biden was real and really president, he would have had the same authority and power as every other president. But an executive document under Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550 relinquishes all authority to the Secretary of Defense of the President of 1550, President Donald John Trump. Title 32 That's a federal National Guard call-up. Title 32 in 2018, ladies and gentlemen. Mad Dog Mattis, United States Marine Corps. All right. They put out a Title 32 order after President Trump's Executive Order 13848. All right. With the national emergency for election interference. All these people out there, President Trump's not doing anything about the yes, he is. James Madison, the father of the Constitution.
Okay, that was a good one. Well, the last one's 10 minutes. That one Switzerland guy. 3 o'clock tomorrow. I don't want to go back to back 2 shows.
In a single morning, you can finish a whole week's worth of gardening.
Good afternoon, campers. No coffee. It's the afternoon. I've had enough coffee for the day. Anyway, did you see President Trump unveiling the new White House helipad yesterday? This is going to look incredible. Incredible. Here it is.
There and from every place. And again, this is going to be used for a lot of different celebrations, a lot of different big meetings where, as an example, President Xi is coming in a little while, a couple of weeks. And we didn't plan to have this done, but it's gone so well. I delayed them a week with the lift, but that's okay. That was a good delay. That was But President Xi's coming, other heads of state will come, and we can do this all outside. Nice weather like today. And this was not a scheduled press conference, but I thought it's so good what we're doing. People should see, because the White House was in terrible condition. Some of these men worked on the facade of the White House, along with the Department of Interior. Doug Berger was fantastic. But they worked on the facade of the White House. And if you look at it now, if you would have looked at it 6-7 months ago, you would have been embarrassed. If you looked at it like I do, I look at it, everything, I'm a real estate, I'm a real big developer. And frankly, it used to make me sick. And look at how horrible the condition was, where the stone was broken, the columns had big chips that are a foot long, and it was terrible. And now it's perfect. It's perfection. And I think you can see that pretty much right even from this distance. You can see it.
It used to make me sick. These people are sick. I saw that briefly yesterday, and I was like, oh, there's something going on here, but I didn't have time to look into it yesterday. And then I read a post earlier, which I'll share with you in a second, that maybe go, yeah, that's exactly what it is, because I knew that this was coded, and it was posted on the White House X feed, which is the new place for Q drops, as you know. And there's a lot of talk about the ballroom being a ballroom stroke military complex. There's also a lot of talk, been around for a long time, about the White House having this huge underground aspect to it, where the demons were taking children, tunnel system underneath the White House, SRA going on, horrible things going on there for years. I think that's why he said it used to make me sick. And what we're doing here is so good that that's what he's really talking about. And I think, if you look at the comments underneath this, it's all people with Trump derangement syndrome going, and guy wasting more taxpayer dollars, etc. And if you're not aware of the fact that there was a list of 34 satanic sites of the world, I'll just read that list out because it is interesting if you're not aware of it. And these satanic sites have long been prophesized or suggested that these 34 satanic sites would be all destroyed by the rods of God. And I said this to my kids the other day, and they were like, what are the rods of God? And I was like, how do you not know that? You've been my child for 19 years. Anyway, the rods of God are basically these titanium rods going around the earth in satellites. Don't start shouting at me about going around the earth and it's flat and all of that. You know what I mean. Maybe not in space, maybe just very high up. But anyway, these things can be released, pinpoint targeted to basically destroy whatever they hit with complete accuracy and be very, power akin to the alleged power of an alleged nuclear weapon, nuclear bomb, but without the radiation fallout. There is a theory that when these satanic buildings get destroyed, that will be the fake World War III that will lead us into the emergency broadcast system. But what do I know? I'm just a conspiracy theorist. But the list of satanic sites that I found here, I'll leave a link to this below the video, include the Ark of Baal, Cannibal, anybody? Yes. Augusta, Germany Castle. I might have to zoom in on this because my eyesight is requiring a little bit of work. Hang on. Yeah, it's just a bit tight there. Biltmore Hotel, Coral Gables, Miami. I never knew about that one. I'd forgotten about it. Buckingham Palace, pretty obvious one. What's just been? Do you remember 5-6 years ago when the palace was emptied for redecorating and the crest was taken off the gate? It's all connected. I'm wondering if they are going to be destroyed and they're not just being repurposed, refurbished. I don't know. CERN in Switzerland, when we all know about that. CS Bohemian Grove, when we know about Bohemian Grove. Comet Pizza in Hollywood, very satanic. Denver International Airport, most of you will know about that. Epstein Island Dome, I think that's already gone. Georgia Guidestones, they already got destroyed. Hoover Dam, a lot of us know about that. Le Louvre in France. Do you remember Le Louvre, when Macron became president, he did his first speech in front of the glass pyramid in Paris, and it had a red light on the top of it, which was like the all-seeing eye, and that you may or may not know that the pyramid there was commissioned by President Francois Mitterrand and has exactly 666 panes of glass in it. Just a little fact there. Look it up. Remember, question everything, including everything I say. A lot of the stuff that I talk about comes from my memory, and sometimes I get things wrong. London Bank 1, London Bank 2. I guess that means the Bank of England buildings. London Bridge, London. London Bridge, Lake Havasu City, Arizona. That's strange. That's interesting, isn't it? The original London Bridge was bought by an American and put into the desert somewhere. That's interesting. Northern Castle, I don't know where that is. Notre Dame Cathedral in France. Remember the fire there? The big fire when Michelle Obama Big Mike was sat there with a glass of wine watching it burn. Opera House in Sydney, Australia. Pentagon. Playboy Mansion. Statue of Liberty, supposed to be Lucifer. Stonehenge. I got told when I was in the Stone Circle in Arbor Low that was fake. That was a fake Stonehenge, but who knows? Tesla building. That's interesting. I'm not sure about this list. Maybe this list has been, some of these things I'm not quite sure about. Leave notes in the comments if you want to correct me. The Getty Museum, well, we all know about that one. The Queen's Hunting Lodge, I don't know where that is, but yeah, that makes sense. The Vatican, Three Gorges Dam, yes. US Capitol. That's interesting. Victoria's Secret's home. You know why Victoria's Secret's called Victoria's Secret? Because Victoria's Secret was that she was a bloke. Yes. Washington Monument, White House 1, White House 2, and Windsor Tower. Should be Windsor Castle. I'm not sure that list is completely accurate. I found that one on Reddit. There are other versions. If you want to go and look up the 34 satanic sites of the world, then go ahead and do so, because that's good research, good to get on top of that. I just pulled this up quickly, but is generally correct. But the post that triggered me to make this video is from Joe M, who you can find on X, General L. Joe M17. Trump makes sure to show the construction at the White House, which is actually deconstruction, to let the deep state know that all the secret tunnels and rooms where dirty deeds were carried out by the deep state have been found and excavated. It's a very public signal that justice is coming. I agree with that. I believe justice is coming. I know it's frustrating the way it's being done, but it had to be done this way. There's no other way of doing it. If you think about it for a few minutes, How are you going to flush out all the minions in the network? It had to be done from the top down in the pyramidical structure. That's my belief. That's my opinion. If I'm wrong, if Joe M is wrong, we're all doomed, but I don't think we are. But anyway, question everything, including this. Do your own research and have a fantastic day. And I don't know why I'm doing.
Okay, we did it. 2 good shows today. I didn't get a chance to get all my intel out. So much to get out. It'll be there tomorrow. 3 o'clock, probably 3 to 6 tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. We got Michael, KK, and Lucy, and Carol must be busy. And so God bless everybody. Have a happy Friday tomorrow. Another day. But at least we're getting something on Springwell, AOC. So God bless. Never forget to like, stay safe, stay strong, keep the faith. Have a good luck. Signing off for the 20th of August, Thursday. Chico dude. Harry Allah and Allah. And we'll see you all tomorrow, you guys, unless something breaks.